Welcome back to TV Podcast Industries. This time we're talking about The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 3, The Solitary Clone.
Tell me something, Crosshair. This new empire, are we making the galaxy better?
We're soldiers. We do what needs to be done.
You know what makes us different from battle droids? We make our own decisions. Our own choices. And we have to live with them too.
Welcome back, fellow clonies, baddies, and batchers. Yes, we're talking about The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, The Solitary Clone, and I'm one of your hosts, Chris.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow batchers. I am the third and final host, John. Welcome.
Yes, and we're all separate people, not the same clone.
No.
That's how this works,
Yes.
unfortunately.
It would be a lot easier. No, it'd be a lot more boring, actually, if we're all exactly the same clone, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we Clone Force 99, so we'd all be slightly unique, but I just don't know. Mine would be just really bad puns. Really bad puns. That would be the uniqueness.
So make your,
They're not even
make your
good
enemies
ones, they're
kill
just very-
themselves, is what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you remember that Monty Python sketch about the most dangerous joke ever?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's basically what my super kind of clone power would be. Running forward, telling a bad joke, hoping that they would die. There you go. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Monty Python or bad jokes. We are here to talk about The Bad Batch. And this episode it takes a turn. We are going into the remaining member of Clone Force 99 of The Bad Batch, or the ex-member.
Yeah.
We get to see different perspectives of the Galactic Empire. Top thoughts before we get into really it. What did you think?
I love this. Favorite episode so far. I know we're only into episode 3, but this was really dark, and I kind of really enjoyed it. It was good to finally reconnect with Crosshair, and yeah, it was good. I just thought this was classic Dave Filoni sort of Clone Wars Bad Batch, where it's great animation and goes really kind of, into places that you wouldn't expect it to go. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's definitely a moment in this one where I went, hang on a second, is this supposed to be for kids or not? And I'm sure we'll talk about that one as we get into our spoiler-filled discussion.
Yes, and that's exactly it. We're in a very spoiler-filled discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have not watched episode 3, pause, go take a break, have a coffee, watch it. It's 20-something minutes, come back, and we'll be here. But those of you who have, we're going to jump straight into our spoiler-filled discussion. Make sure you subscribed by heading on over to tvpodcastindustries.com and clicking all the links and the buttons and the places, and make sure you are following us everywhere for all the latest on The Bad Batch and all the shows we cover in 2023. But we're not here to talk about those shows. We are here to talk about The Bad Batch. So, Derek, do you want to tell us who gave us what, where, when, and how in this galactic story?
Absolutely. Executive producers of the show are Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. This episode was written by Amanda Rose Munoz. Amanda wrote episode 6 and episode 13 of The Bad Batch last season and has worked as a script supervisor on all of the animated Star Wars shows, from Rebels, Resistance, Tales of the Jedi, The Bad Batch, and of course The Clone Wars as well. This episode was directed by Saul Ruiz. He has directed 6 episodes of The Bad Batch already, but this is his first for season 2, and he also directed 4 episodes of Tales of the Jedi too.
Excellent stuff. Real Star Wars animation alumni here.
It is, yes, family project
Yeah.
for The Bad Batch. And story editor, once again, Matt Mekdovitz, who is the story editor for the show overall. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for episode 3 of season 2 of The Bad Batch, The Solitary Clone?
Sure. Imperial Governor Grottan has been sent to the independent planet Desix to claim it for the Empire, but he meets with resistance from the current leader, Tawny Ames, and her army of separatist droids. They take Grottan hostage while Tawny negotiates with the Empire for her planet to remain independent. But Vice Admiral Rampart has a different plan. With the loyal former Bad Batch member Crosshair cleared for active duty after being rescued from Kamino, Rampart teams him up with Commander Cody to establish Imperial rule on Desix. On the planet, Crosshair and Cody make their way battling through all types of droids, from battle droids and droidacres to commando droids and a tactical leader. They find Governor Grotton, and Cody convinces Tuani Ames to release him and negotiate terms, but Grotton orders them to kill the leader. Commander Cody hesitates, but all good clones follow orders, and Crosshair puts her down. Back at the Republic military base, Cody questions Crosshair on whether they are doing the right thing. Is the Republic bringing safety and security to the galaxy? The next day, Vice Admiral Rampart assigns Crosshair to a new mission. It seems that Commander Cody has gone AWOL during the night, like an increasing number of troops following Order 66.
And we have the beginning of the desertions of the clones.
Lots of them.
Well, at least the discussion of AWOL subjects happening.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, let's jump into it. We cover this as usual with the 3 blaster points. And with a few pew-pews, let's jump straight into blaster point number 1, which is the return of Crosshair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we haven't seen Crosshair in the first 2 episodes of the series. They were more concerned with the rest of the Bad Batch. And this time, the opposite. We get only Crosshair in this episode. Don't get any of the Bad Batch at all. Don't understand. Don't know where any of them are. But this is following on from the end of last season, where Crosshair was left behind on the planet of Kamino. The episode title for this one, The Solitary Clone, is it kind of gives you a big description of what's going on with Crosshair. Every other clone seems to be really avoiding him. I know he doesn't have the nicest of dispositions anyway, but they all seem very suspicious of him when he comes anywhere close to them. We hear from Commander Cody that the rumor of all of the Bad Batch not following Order 66 and turning on the Empire has kind of gotten around all of the troops, and this is why they give Crosshair a wide berth, because people don't trust him. But also, yeah, as I say, not the kindest or friendliest of clones anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also wonder whether it's because he does have the stormtrooper sort of uniform, in a sense, that modified version with the helmet, because I'm kind of really enjoying this just this time where you've still got clone troopers, but you see the new stormtroopers coming in, like when they have finally taken Desix, and you see that the occupying force are made up of stormtroopers, not clone troopers. Yet,
almost proto stormtroopers, because they still had this weird cap top on top of the actual helmet as well.
Yeah,
which I was like, because I looked at it and went, "Oh my god, that looks almost just." So yeah, you're right. We're getting this transition towards what we lovably know of, like, New Hope level kind of stormtroopers.
Yeah. And I think actually doing episode 2, I was saying clone troopers, thinking, but I thought we'd seen stormtroopers now. So I like this kind of mix that's happening, and almost those competing factions within the Empire, at least within the army. So I thought this was really good. And I think, seeing Crosshair, just that he sleeps alone, he eats alone, he's kind of shunned by the other clones, and he really embodies the title of this episode. In some ways, I was feeling a little sorry for him, actually.
You do, don't you?
And you do wonder, like, I guess the other big thing from this episode, certainly with the introduction of Commander Cody, is just that notion of what the Empire is doing, how it compares to their former loyalties, which was the Republic. And certainly, for Crosshair, he has, the 4 members of Clone Force 99 as real examples of disobeying those orders. And increasingly then you're seeing this happening throughout at least the clone troopers. So, he's being challenged all the time here with just the desertions that are beginning to happen. And so I kind of really like that sort of underlying sort of play with Crosshair's mind. How long will he go on saying, a soldier's duty is to follow orders.
Yeah.
Like, unquestioningly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it is an interesting one. I think as the more and more we see about Order 66 and what happened in the aftermath of it, it just kind of changed my thought on how it originally came across when I watched Revenge of the Sith. I always thought it was kind of a switch went on and the clone troopers just instantly turned on the Jedi and killed them. That's it. Whereas the longer it goes on, the more you learn that what's built into the Order is the idea that the Jedi had turned on the Republic. They become the enemy of the Republic, and it's almost a choice of the clones to follow that order or not. That's what we're kind of hearing now. And they all chose to follow because they are good soldiers and because it's built into them to be loyal. Absolutely. But you're hearing it from Commander Cody here as well. They believed that this Order 66 was the right order at the time because the Jedi posed the biggest threat, effectively. But it used to feel like there was, as I say, a switch was turned on and they went bad. But that doesn't seem to be the way it's bearing out as time is going on.
There is still a switch though, because there's the inhibitor.
Yeah.
So they're inhibiting, so I think with the passage of time, I think you're right. I think they're beginning to question the order, but I think at the time there is still this inhibitor, which was, I guess, to stop free choice, and didn't work with all of them. Some of them, it was faulty or damaged. And so there is still that element. It's not to say that they went bad. It's just that it inhibited their free choice in a sense. And it didn't work for all of them. But as time moves on, then there's other questions being raised that aren't really, they're circumventing, they're surrounding that Order 66 about what's happening now. And that's what the inhibitor wasn't designed to do. It's for a very specific purpose, I think.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but I also think when the film came out, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think as we are kind of retroactively retconning it, which is fine because that's what these shows have been doing. The Clone Wars, Rebels, we've been diving into an area which they've been expanding. So I think back in the day, yes, when it was a switch. Now I think it's more, as you guys have said, it was the inhibitor chip kind of played a role inhibiting against the actual going against whoever gave the order.
Yeah.
So they have said the Jedi were bad, the inhibitor switch is stopping the questioning of that order of being Order 66, get rid of the enemy. So I think that's kind of, and we can see anyone with a faulty one was like, wait, hold on, no, they were my commander, they were my general.
Yeah.
They did nothing wrong. And you can now start to see the conditioning is breaking with Cody as they have done more and more bad. I was going to say badness, but as they become the bad guys. More and more so as part of this.
Yeah.
You can see some of them hesitate, trigger, question.
Yeah.
And we see it in Cody. Cody, no more.
Yeah. And it's also what TV, whether it's animation or live action, it can add the layers and the nuance to what I guess the film as a 2.5 hour spectacle didn't have the leeway to do. So I think that's what's really good about all of this as well. So
absolutely. And if you remember, that turn of Captain Cody was probably the biggest moment in Revenge of the Sith because he was the one that was standing alongside Obi-Wan. And when he gets the order, he turns on Obi-Wan. And what we'd seen throughout the Clone Wars series was he was always beside the Jedi. He was always fighting along their side. He was one of the biggest heroes of that show, himself and Captain Rex, the biggest two clone heroes of that show alongside the Jedi. And then to have him turn when he gets the order in is a massive twist for that character, that you just see on screen for 2 seconds. As you say, John, a movie doesn't have the ability to give all the nuance to the story, but now him questioning that order a couple of years on after Order 66, or a while on after Order 66, is another big moment for the Bad Batch to tackle. So, I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think as well, it was good to have, time with the prickly cold Crosshair as well, and just see, how he's doing and that whole context, for him of these desertions and these soldiers still questioning, outside of Clone Force 99. And certainly that prickly, cold disposition probably brings us to Blaster Point 2. And that is, our Blaster Point 2 is that attack on, Desix, which, I like the fact that they were so confident that this was all sort of under wraps and so on. And yet you have Governor Tawny effectively knowing that the Empire doesn't negotiate. This is an operation, a military operation. Mm-hmm. It's not diplomatic. And I think, I love the fact that then plays out with this urban warfare through the streets of Desix, but with seeing some real good, sharp shooting from Crosshair.
Absolutely. I just want to make one quick mention to the opening moments of the episode where we had the initial approach to Desix, because it's a very small touch, but I like that Governor Gatton, who's on board the ship with his army, he looks really nervous to do this. It's like being sent on a really difficult job by your boss. He's there going, I'm going to go down to this planet that has said they're independent and tell them that I'm now their new governor. It's like, it's probably the worst task that you have. I hope they don't kill me or kidnap me kind of thing. I like that little touch of him. He does look nervous before he arrived. Initially, I thought it was just because he doesn't like flying. It was something like that. But,
well, it's kind of the arrogance, isn't it, really? I mean, it's interesting in this moment that effectively they're taking over a planet. It's not even just a city, although that is the key to it, but he's literally there with like 8 or 10 troops against an entire planet. I mean, that's the arrogance of the Empire. It's like, you will just succumb and submit to this is our negotiation effectively, because if you don't, well then I guess next comes the Star Destroyers and the orbital bombing, I guess. But it's just
it's the threat that backs up those outer 10 troopers is where it really comes from, isn't it? We've reviewed your application for independence and it has been denied. So I like that. But you're right, the battle through the streets of Desix, after initially the trooper forces that arrive with Cody and Crosshair, after they get taken out of the sky pretty quickly by the army of separatist droids that Tawny seems to have at her fingertips. I love this, I must say, seeing all of the different versions of the separatist droids being under control of Tawny, and them having the tactical droid kind of layering wave after wave of these separatist droids against the troopers. I think that's a really cool moment for this episode.
They didn't fully explain how she rewired them or kind of programmed. It was just kind of Crosshair going, she must have reprogrammed them. And all right, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. We don't have time in a 28-minute episode to do that.
I enjoyed this because I always enjoyed our Roger Rogers. Mm-hmm. They were always kind of the comedic fun sometimes to the foil of what was happening.
Weren't they so annoying when we saw them first in Phantom Menace? They were such an annoyance to be on screen, but after seeing them for so long in the Clone Wars and after seeing them now in Bad Batch as well, they do make me laugh a lot more than they used to.
Definitely. Yeah. I think they work better as well in animation like that.
Yeah.
As well. It feels kind of more appropriate because, I mean, it in some ways, the comedy in the movies, it was set against, dare I say it, George Lucas's talk of, the politics and the trade dispute. And it kind of, it was so massively seriously dull, like some of the context of that George Lucas introduced. And then there was this real silliness, to the roots of, I guess, the whole franchise. Yeah. It kind of was almost jarring that George Lucas had put on screen, these formidable, sort of the other side of the war. Yeah. Compared to the clones or just some of the other discussions that he was introducing into this world, which I think is why we have probably Andor and things like that, in terms of that. So that's great. But whether it worked for those movies, certainly for maybe older fans of the franchise. I don't know. I mean, at the time, yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, grown to love them.
Yeah. And I think
Roger.
there was one I hadn't seen before, which was this more assassin-like one at the very end that were jumping on the walls.
Yes, the commando droids.
Yes.
bro.
I obviously, because I've admitted it freely that I have never gone full all the way through the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The animated.
Yes, they're very present in the Clone Wars animated series. They're definitely a formidable foe. You wonder why they don't roll out more of them, but I presume they just take a little longer to build than the pithy battle droids. But I kind of liked how they used each of these as almost layers of a video game for the troops to get to their goal. Loved that opening shot of the battle, really, from Crosshair taking out the tank. I love
that was
how
so good.
he's able to stay himself for long enough so that he can find the exact right point to hit the tank and blow it up with just one shot down the barrel of the tank. I thought that was
that was very cool. And I loved his sharpshooting up the spiral stairs using the little sort of reflector discs to shoot up, and even to take out the tactical droid at the end. Like, that was very cool.
Yeah.
Whether it was possible in reality, I don't know, but very, very cool. Like, that is proper sharpshooting.
He's amazing.
Yes, it's dead shot level.
Yeah, it is.
We're going into DC here. It's just like, or Bullseye for you Marvel fans. Yeah. It was just basically the paper clip through the air.
Well, that's Crosshair's central trait. That's
absolutely.
He is the sharpest of shooters.
And he certainly proved that in this battle. Yeah.
But should we get towards the end of the Battle of Desik, because this is where the show gets very, very dark. We get to the end. The tactical droid, the commander, has been taken out. We got the Governor Tawny essentially holding the Empire hostage, and basically saying, we want our independence. We're not with anyone. We just want to be left alone. Leave me alone or I'm going to kill. And we get back the usual, which is orders must be followed. Good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, there's a moment between the two of them as Cody puts down his gun and he seems to be willing to negotiate with her. Again, Cody had been a very heroic character, as we'd seen throughout the Clone Wars. So I'm sure he'd learnt a bit of the negotiation tactics. But when Tawny agrees and hands over Governor Grattan, it's him that makes the decision. He's the one that says, kill her now, basically. We can't give her independence. We won't give her independence, and she can't hold this over the Empire, effectively. So, Cody refuses. He steps away, or at least hesitates, for a moment. But the shot then rings out as Crosshair takes her out without a second thought. Yeah.
Which is what? This was the bit that shocked me. Again, this technically is a child's show. Let's say a teenager at this point. Technically,
I'd say they know their audience. I'd say they know their audience have continued on from the Clone Wars, which did end off very adult. The bit that shocked me was more the line from Grattan afterwards. Now hang her up in the street and make an example of her for the rest of the
exactly.
I know. It's like, whoa, okay.
This is
if you pause the shot. Like, as it kind of pans out into the thing, you can see on the ramparts a body.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, it's Nazi level kind of tactics here. And I mean, that makes sense for the Empire. Yeah, no, I thought it really went dark. And I mean, even just after that, as you get the new stormtroopers arriving for effectively the occupation, you get this it's nicely bleak underlying musical score that happens, which kind of carries on through right till the end. It really kind of tones the whole episode very darkly with this music. For me, at least, it was almost just like that flip with Governor Grattan effectively ordering them to execute her and so on. I liked as well that, in a sense, because of what had just happened, that in effect, new hope, that hope that somehow you could have some kind of negotiation, and the actions of Cody in putting his gun down, with Governor Tawny. But I really liked her reference that, Count Dooku was right. I mean, so again, really the sense that Dooku is in some ways not being rehabilitated, but actually almost slightly different shade from the movies, that actually for a lot of people, he was still that awful, sort of, apprentice to, Palpatine, like we saw with Ramor from the last episode, on his homeworld. But here, you have this understanding from Governor Tawny that Count Dooku was right, that, the Republic was turning into something else that, because they don't necessarily know all the machinations behind it. And, she says peace was never an option. Tried to bring peace between the Trade Federation and the Republic at the time in the Republic Senate, but was rejected by Palpatine.
Exactly.
So, she's kind of almost understanding that, this is a bit final in herself, but is trusting Cody enough, and then it's completely whipped out from under her and Cody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like, that's a real contrast, and I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the taking of Desic into the Empire. That's how they are no longer kind of alone, and that's the end of where it goes dark. But then we have one final blaster point. Yes, we have one final blaster point, which is, we mentioned it, we touched on it very briefly at the beginning, that the clones are going AWOL.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of the end of the clone army, and some of them are starting to fight their programming. And first, one of the most notable being Cody. We already know Rex and the few are kind of in the wind from season 1. And we have seen him. So now we're seeing Cody join him, maybe, and more.
Yeah. We don't know where Cody's gone at all, but I do think, John, you mentioned the bleakness of the closing, the music seeming very Blade Runner, which is something we also said about the music in Andor throughout the season, and it felt very Blade Runner, felt very stark in comparison to the type of music that John Williams usually would produce for a Star Wars movie in the past. So I do love that that's how the conversation plays out between Cody and Crosshair, and there is that moment of are we the bad guys here?
Yeah, it really is.
I've been told that we're bringing peace and order to the galaxy, but if peace and order is shoot a leader in the head and hang her in front of her people, maybe we're not the good guys in this situation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing potentially that may resonate with Crosshair, and kind of why I was saying this whole sort of almost chipping away at his position, which is good soldiers follow orders, is when Cody says to him, if you do that, are we not just the same as battle droids, which are just programmed? Like, they have no choice. The orders are transmitted to them through their hardwire. Whilst they're clones, they are still, human, I guess, in that sense. They can
still make a choice.
Yeah, they can still make a choice, and so on. So I just wondered, would that begin to start to chip away at Crosshair's position on this? I don't know. Because certainly after what had happened on Desic's in the governor's office, Crosshair certainly didn't take any moral high ground. I think there was enough of a pause and hesitation from Cody that suggests he could have done it, but Crosshair stepped in and took out Governor Tawny. So
you just don't know where the show's going to go with it, because like we were saying all the way throughout season 1, we're kind of going, they'll make it up and Crosshair will join the Bad Batch again and off they ride as heroes into the future kind of thing. But as the story goes on and on and on, you're kind of going, well, Crosshair can't really be redeemed from what he's doing. They keep layering on the darkness, layering on that he does believe in the truth of the Empire, does believe in their mission. And this is another episode where he's done it. So this episode is more about Cody's realization and Cody going AWOL and Cody leaving the Republic, as opposed to Crosshair questioning himself, because he's literally just done another murder on behalf of the Empire. So he's had the conversation, yes. He's being posed and his morals are being questioned, and he's being left alone in rooms to ponder what he's doing. But he's been doing that all along, and he's still going along with the Republic. So I don't know whether the story is going to be that Crosshair comes back, or whether it will just be seeing the Republic build through the eyes of a former member of the Bad Batch, and him being the antagonist for the Bad Batch for the whole of the show.
I think that is where we are now. They are, as you said, they've layering on the points where redemption. They may do that. He does a final act of redemption to attempt in his final dying breath kind of thing. Yeah. But like, very Darth Vader-esque, which is like, he turned bad. He killed all the younglings. Yeah. But in his final act, he saved Luke and killed the Emperor.
Well, threw him off the balcony. Not killed, as we found out, for some reason.
Well, yeah.
Let's not go into that. It's a whole other podcast. But I think that's what the only thing they can do, because they're essentially setting him up to, within a few more episodes like this, he will be killing random kids in the street kind of thing. Yeah. Like, he's just, and it will be because orders... It was the orders, exactly. And must follow orders.
His hobby is drowning kittens, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's where we're getting to. Yeah.
I don't know if you could creatively tell a good enough story for him to be redeemed. Yeah. Because he is this now. Like, he just killed that woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know if I want him to now. Because he is a good foil to the Bad Batch, which absolutely. Are trying to find their own way in the galaxy at war with itself. Mm-hmm. In the creation and the kind of the larval stage of what is the Empire. Yeah. It's not even larval anymore, but
that's a great
the young stage.
Yeah.
I like that.
The larval stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a pupa. Yeah. They haven't gone cocooned yet. But I think that's where it's the fun, and I think Omega is the new Crosshair, and in a good way. Mm. But I do start to wonder how they build on the Crosshair mythos in the next couple of episodes in this season. Where do you give him his own now? He already had his own little battalion before, but do you get now a new battalion of Crosshair likes? Not now Clone Force 99, because they were all different, but more, maybe they do. Maybe they give them a load of Dark Troopers. Yeah. Like, or stuff like that. So
or maybe they, as you say, they bring him back as a leader. Like, I was intrigued by Vice Admiral Rampart again, specifically giving him his missions, bringing Crosshair in and giving him his missions and assigning him to where he needs to assign him. It didn't seem particularly bothered that Cody and any of the other troopers were going AWOL. It seemed to be just a nonchalant thing to say, oh, yeah, another one of the clone troopers has changed sides again and run away. We don't really know where they are. Someone like Commander Cody, who's been involved in this group for such a long time, probably has quite a lot of intel to share with whoever he sides with. But Rampart didn't seem too bothered about losing another clone trooper. But I wonder if the path now for Crosshair is working with Rampart and working his way up within the clone army to become a leader again. He has been sent off on another mission with another leader. He hasn't taken over a new leadership position, but I wonder if he ingratiates himself more and more with Rampart as we go along. Will he become his right hand man again?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what this new mission that has been assigned to Crosshair by Rampart is. Whilst it wasn't mentioned, I'm guessing it is to quietly take out the Bad Batch.
Maybe.
Given the falsification of the report and him effectively needing to clear up his mess.
Yes. Rampart leaving a few messes behind as he went.
Good stuff. I think they'll then one of the next ones will be a crossover, hopefully with the Batch again. Yeah. But that is still so far away. So, gentlemen, as we come to the end, do you have any notes for this episode? Anything else you'd like to point out?
None from me.
I just got two that we didn't mention that I really wanted to mention. I love how the team take out the droideka, who I always love the idea of the droideka with a shield on itself, being able to shoot out through it, but not being able to get shots in through it. Love throwing the sticky bomb at one of the battle droids, shooting it in the head. It folds through the shield and blows up the droideka. I thought that was so cool. It was a really cool little move. And then you mentioned earlier on, John, about Tony Amy's working in the Senate, and she mentioned she worked with Mina Bonteri. That's the senator of Andron, who was a very good friend of Padme Amidala. So a little reference and throwback to the Clone Wars as well. So
excellent.
That she did have some connection in the past. So I like that.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. Well then, gentlemen, with that, we must close out this episode. But before we do, I have to ask, what are your final thoughts of The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, The Solitary Clone? John?
I absolutely loved this. I'd give it 4.5 meals for 1 out of 5. I just really enjoyed the whole sort of overarching aspect of here of the Empire, taking planet by planet, in different ways, coming back to Crosshair as the solitary clone back in the field, seeing his sharpshooting, a shot down the barrel of a tank. Really good.
Very cool.
Spiral shooting, very cool. All of the different sort of that urban warfare, and then just that dark turn, seeing how the stormtroopers are the ones that are being asked to occupy, not the clone troopers. It's almost like they're sending them on the missions, and a few of them will get popped off, just reducing their ranks further. Because again, there is you've got an entire army of clone troopers here and being asked to effectively get taken out of existence in some way. So I like all that transitional stuff. Seeing Commander Cody was a real surprise, and having him going AWOL, I think, is really interesting for the remainder of this series. And as I say, for me, I just wonder whether there's redemption in it or not, or whether it's redemption with a final hurrah in a sacrificial way. It's just, to what extent are some of these things going to chip away or at Crosshair's position, or is he so cold and detached that it just doesn't? Really enjoyed all the different aspects of this episode. So for me, 4.5 meals for 1 out of 5.
Excellent. Derek, what about yourself?
You mentioned meals for 1. We forgot to say that we now know why Crosshair is so thin in comparison to the rest of his clone of the clone troopers, because he doesn't get to eat any meals. Vice Admiral Rampart seems to call him the minute he puts a mouthful of his breakfast into his mouth. Really enjoyed this episode. This is a perfect episode of The Bad Batch for me. I love how they drop episodes like this in between other types of episodes, more fun episodes, that kind of stuff. So they will never have a show which is darkness every week. That's not how the Bad Batch worked. That's not how Clone Wars worked as a cartoon either. But when they do an episode like this, where you get the other side of what's happening on the Empire, the other side of what's happening with a character you haven't seen in a while, and bringing back someone like Commander Cody to the show, I think are really, really good. So this is a perfect Bad Batch episode for me. Loved it. How about yourself, Chris?
Same. The darkness here kind of pulled you in after the levity of kind of episode 1 and 2. Again, not that levity, but the foil to this. It is the two sides of the coin. We get the Bad Batch, which have Omega and Upbeat and Wrecker making jokes and all that fun and games. And then you get this very dark episode, basically about the occupation of a planet, a system, and the basically stringing up enemy combatants in the town square. As John said, very Nazi-esque. And I think it's good. It's going to be the part that I think will keep me quite engaged this season. If every 2, 3, 4 episodes we get a very dark, or at least a somewhat kind of let's show how really bad the Empire is in kind of true form. Like when they start burning books, or that's where we'll be like, oh yeah, okay, we are the bad guys. I want to see that.
Yeah.
So overall, really enjoyed it. Definitely a one to kind of whet the appetite to see more of Crosshair in the future.
Excellent. Right, I think we have some thoughts on episode 1 and 2 of The Bad Batch from our wonderful fellow Batchers.
Excellent.
So we got a little bit of feedback on the first 2 episodes of The Bad Batch in after they've aired, but I've been thinking about the episodes myself as well, and there's something that we kind of forgot to bring up, and it actually aligns quite well with episode 3. Something we kind of forgot to bring up is that the Bad Batch themselves are in hiding, right? From the Empire after what happened to them on Camino. But Sid has brought in this new character, this pirate, effectively Fee, who she's told all about the Bad Batch, their distinguishing features. She knew all about them, you know, how they look different and how they're not like other clones and how they're on the run, you know. So they know all about that. So she knows all about that, which isn't great for their undercover hiding.
No, I guess it depends how much she travels between systems.
Yeah, she's an untrustworthy pirate, though.
Well, that is true. That is
moment,
true. She might, ultimately, she's a pirate. She does go off, looking for bounty, like Sid, that kind of enterprise, shall we say.
Yeah.
So, if there was a bounty put on it on the Bad Batch high enough, she might decide to cash in the chips that she has.
A little dangerous game.
It is.
There, yeah. And then the other thing, which is specifically to do with episode 3, with the solitary clone.
Is this our feedback section? The feedback?
It is kind of our feedback section. In the feedback, yes. It's just because I've been thinking about it, because it's a good show to think about afterwards. And, you know, we sometimes don't get the time when we're recording a little bit in advance. But they left Crosshair behind on Camino, and he knows that the Bad Batch are still alive. Yet, Vice Admiral Rampart doesn't know that the Bad Batch are alive. He went to and killed... at the end of episode 2, he killed the clone trooper that was there, specifically because he put into the documents that the Bad Batch were alive, and he looked really shocked at the fact that they could possibly be there. So that means Crosshair hasn't told Rampart that the Bad Batch are alive.
No, so Crosshair has filed a report that they've been killed.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So it's actually all linking back to Crosshair.
Yeah, interestingly. So
interesting.
Yeah. So it's something to keep an eye on. So we've been saying that Crosshair, specifically this episode, we talked all about Crosshair not being redeemable. And I don't think he is. Again, he has murdered quite a lot of people. But the fact that he's still not willing to tell his boss that the Bad Batch are alive, will there be future consequences for him not doing that?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Anyway, those are my thoughts since I watched the first couple of episodes.
Well, that is, yeah. And I mean, also, there's still the point with Rampart that he has also told his boss that they're dead.
Exactly.
So it's kind of, Crosshair's lie has netted Rampart into a lie, even though he probably didn't know, that it was a lie.
Yes, he didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, and one other thing. We said we'd come back to it because on the first episode we only watched it a couple of times, and we'd mistakenly taken what Fee had said about the information that she provided to Sid. That was, I think we'd said that she was going to give her more information if Sid brought back the stockpile from Count Dooku's war chest, effectively. But actually, when we watched it again, what Fee is saying is that she wants payment out of Count Dooku's war chest, because that's the information that she's given to Sid. Sid didn't know about the fact.
Yes,
that
a little correction there. I think I had mentioned that wrongly.
I'm saying the royal we here, John, because I don't want to throw you under the bus.
It was me. It was me.
I sometimes
misremembered it, or didn't fully get it down in my notes what was happening. So
that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a major distinction.
Well, let's get on with our fellow Batchers' feedback.
Yes.
Which I think is probably the more important stuff.
Always is.
But yeah, we do get more time to digest and marinate on the episode. So sometimes our initial impressions and the length of time we
we record after we watch the show can be relatively short, then sometimes things take on a different view as time progresses.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, we are restricted to the number of times we can watch it. So sometimes we can't catch those corrections until we can watch it as many times as we want when it comes out to Disney Plus. So
exactly.
yes, but as you said, let's get on to some feedback that we got in. First up, Jamie Lawson over on Facebook says, "Do you guys think the horn that's on Sid's desk is from the creature in the Attack of the Clones, the one that trampled Jango Fett? I believe it was sliced off by Mace Windu. Nice Easter egg if it is, as also Count Dooku was present and seeing the episode was about nicking his war chest." Jamie also said that he also got that Indiana Jones Last Crusade vibe from Omega being told to save herself, not focus on the war chest. So I'm glad it wasn't just me that got that vibe.
Yeah, good
Jamie.
stuff, Jamie. No, I mean, it was, I think when you mentioned it, yeah, absolutely. I just, at the time, didn't get the Indiana Jones vibe from it. But it would also be good if that horn on Sid's desk was a little Easter egg here from the Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones. Because, I mean, I think, you know, this episode, it's starting to see those Easter eggs from, you know, moving through from season 1 and, dare I say it, the wider Star Wars world now. I mean, given we've gotten crossovers from the animated world into live action now with Ahsoka, for example. We know we're going to get various members of the Rebels in Ahsoka as well. We have crossovers between the animation as well. So it'll be good to see some of these Easter eggs coming in and sort of those wider sort of storylines feeding into the Bad Batch, even though they will keep those mission orientated episodes. And I think certainly for episode 3, it feels like that continuation from season 1, and certainly with Cody there as well.
Absolutely.
Into the wider Clone Wars vibe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely see those connections. It would be cool if the horde was from the creature from Attack the Clones, Jamie. But I did have a look. Obviously it's the same office that Sid's been using for the last 2 seasons, effectively. Everybody just focused on the fact that she has like a Mandalorian helmet on the wall and some Stormtrooper helmets and stuff. So I can't see anybody that's picked out that the horn is the creature from Attack of the Clones. Nobody seems to have picked that up. But it'd be a cool little Easter egg. I'd love to see if the showrunners have talked about it.
Picked it up.
Jamie's picked it up, of course, because we have the best listeners.
So good spot, Jamie, I would say.
Absolutely.
For sure. We also got some feedback through from Dr. Bob Phillips as well on the first 2 episodes. He says, "It's good to be back with this adventurous crew. I'm always impressed when the show can recap the key bits of the characters' backstory and set the context for the new viewers without it feeling like an info dump or inducing yawns. Other things that impressed me in this split in 2 episode were the container ship design, cracking development of now into the future, the use of Chekhov's ship plan lesson, and the probable seeding of the benefits of play for the sake of play into Omega's rather odd childhood. Most shocked by anyone's ability to move, let alone hobble along, with a shattered shaft of femur." Well, indeed.
The Batch are strong. But yeah, I do understand that they didn't even splint his leg. They just kind of carried and dragged him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and as well, I mean, I think, Dr. Bob is absolutely right. They always have a great recap bit. I hope my synopses aren't too long and yawn inducing. That's all I can say.
That's true. That is true. I hope not.
Oh no. I'll need to get an out of 10 or something. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that was always one of the good things though, with Clone Wars, was just that kind of news broadcast at the start that really just, I guess is what I aspire to in my synopsis.
Yeah. Just kind
synopses, I guess, executive summaries. But for sure, I think,
The show does a really
They
good job.
do it well.
Yeah, even in the language they use, so that you know, even bringing in the character like Fee to go, right, the difference between each of these Bad Batch members is this,
Yeah.
this, right? You big, tall, strong guy, you come with me. You know, it's done really, really quickly, introduced you who all the characters are, and off you go, you know. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job there. Excellent stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob, and thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
And we do want to hear your feedback throughout the season. Please let us know what you think, especially about this episode. Solitary Clone, I think, is my favourite so far, as we mentioned. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about where you think the show's going. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries, or pop on over to our Facebook group. We have a spoiler post up on the Facebook group for each episode of the show as it's released as well.
Yep, thanks again to our fellow batchers for their feedback there on the first 2 episodes. Good stuff. Right, let's get back to us so we can say bye-bye.
Bye. Good stuff. That's it for our discussion about the Bad Batch 203, The Solitary Clone. We'll be back next week with Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 4, Faster, on January 18th.
Excellent stuff. And if you've liked what you've heard, why not head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where you can support us for any monthly amount. If you just want to buy us a coffee to get some blue milk into our systems, why not head on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where you can get us a one-off donation of blue milk or green milk, depending on your color choices. Or can't do that, why not head on over and write a review on Apple Podcasts, or just share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is what, gentlemen?
It is sharing the love.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes, we'll be back for Faster on January 18th. Until then, we will speak to you again soon.
Absolutely, yes. Also starting this week, our coverage of The Last of Us, which airs on HBO Max from the 15th of January and on Sky in Europe from the 16th of January. So really looking forward to The Last of Us. A very adult show, I'm told. So really looking forward to seeing what they have in store, based on the wonderful PlayStation video game, The Last of Us, directed by Greg Mazin, who brought us the excellent Chernobyl. So really looking forward to seeing what they have in that show. So 2 different shows. Once again, we're back.
Yes, Pedro Pascal will never get away from just taking small things and moving them around. Mandalorian, and now The Last of Us.
Yes.
One child for a different child. Mm-hmm. Yes, but there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, bad batchers, badders, baddies, batchers, and everything in between. We will speak to you very soon. Thank you so much, and speak to you then.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow batchers. We'll see you next time. But in the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, and keep being bad. Bye.